Hello, you guys. Today we are going to start chapter 8, and we are going to be talking about a new type of number called an integer. And this sounds kind of weird, but there are different types of numbers in math, and up until now, you guys have been using what's called whole numbers. So we've been talking about numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're introducing negative numbers. And to include negative numbers in like our discussion, we call these numbers integers. So integers, if you look at the number line that's kind of in the middle of the page here, integers include both positive and negative numbers. So if you look at the number line going to the right, it starts at 0 and goes 1, 2, 3, 4. And then going to the left, from 0 you go -1, -2, -3, -4, and those are the negative numbers. 0 sits in the middle of the number line, and that's neither positive nor negative. It's kind of like the boundary line between the positive and the negative numbers. And so we have a few vocabulary words today. A positive number is a number that is greater than 0. They can be written with or without a positive sign, or like the plus sign. Up until now, we haven't needed to write the plus sign in front of the numbers because we haven't used negative numbers at all really in math. And so now, if you want, you can add a plus sign in front of your positive numbers to symbolize that it's positive, but usually you probably won't see that. Negative numbers are numbers that are less than 0, and they are always written with a negative sign so that you know we are talking about numbers less than 0. And so when we talk about positive and negative integers, we're also talking about opposites. And so two numbers that are the same distance from 0 on a number line, but are on opposite sides of 0, are called opposites. And the opposite of 0 is 0. So when we talk about opposite numbers here, like the example below, it says 4 and -4 are opposites because if you think about their place on the number line, they are both 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They are both 4 places away from 0. And so these are your vocabulary words. And today we're going to just very briefly talk about integers and how we represent integers on a number line, and how or when we might see them in our real, everyday lives besides just in math class. And so if you look down at example number 1, it says write a positive or negative integer that represents each situation. And so you're just trying to write a number that represents each of these situations. So letter A says a contestant gains 250 points on a game show. So think of the cue word here, see if you can find it, that will tell you if we're talking about either negative 250 or positive 250. The word gains is a keyword that means positive, and so to represent this, we would just write we would just write 250. I don't know what is going on with this. Okay. What in the world? So anyway, you can write 250 like that. That's just normal. If you really want, you can put a plus sign in front of it so you know it's positive. You don't have to. And then letter B, gasoline freezes at 40 degrees below 0. So the keyword here is below, which means negative. And so you would write negative 40. So now I would encourage you to pause this video so that you guys can try the 4 try it questions, and then when you're finished you can unpause and check your work with mine. So it says, again, write a positive or negative integer that represents each situation. Number 1, a hiker climbed 900 feet up a mountain. So when we're talking about climbing up, we're talking about positive 900. Number 2, you have a debt of 24. Debt means that you owe someone that money. So you are out $24, so negative 24. A student loses 5 points for not showing work on a quiz. Some of you might be familiar with that. That would mean you are out minus 5 points. And then number 4, sometimes this can be confusing. The word deposit means that you are putting money into your bank account. So if you deposit $10, you are earning, or it would be positive 10. The opposite of that would be withdraw, which means you are taking $10 out of the account. Okay, so that's the first example. Pretty easy. We're just taking a situation and representing it with a number. The next example is graphing. And so we are graphing different integers on a number line, and we're also going to start talking about their opposite. And so I'm going to draw one number line for both A and B just to save space. So if you think about a number line here, that might be too big, but 0 is usually in the middle. It's neither positive or negative, and then going up, oh my goodness. Okay, going up to the right, what is going on? Okay. Going up to the right. Oh my God. We have one, finally 2, 3, 4, and then going down with the negative integers from 0. It kind of seems like it counts backwards a little bit, but negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Okay, and so if we're going to graph for letter A, I'm going to do it in purple. 3 and its opposite, we would put a dot on 3. The opposite of 3 is negative 3 because they are both 3 spaces away from 0. And then for letter B, negative 2 would be here. The opposite of negative 2 would be positive 2 because they are both 2 spaces from 0. So if you were asked to explain something about how you know that 2 numbers are opposites, you would have to tell me that they are both the same number of spaces from 0 on a number line. Okay, you guys go ahead and try the 4 try it questions. I'm going to make one big number line again. Since I have to go all the way up for 12 for number 7 on this, I think that I am going to choose to count by 2s. You can count by 1s if you want. It doesn't matter. I might run out of room. Okay, so there's that. And so I'm going to do each one in a different color. So for number 5, 6, and its opposite would be -6. Number 4, -4. Its opposite is +4. Number 7, -12 is all the way down here. Its opposite is +12. And then, since I didn't do odd numbers, for 1, I'm going to have to put it right in between 0 and 2. Its opposite is -1, which is between 0 and -2. So there's your number line. That is how you graph integers and their opposites. And then the last thing we're going to do is think about when you might see some negative numbers in real life. And so we don't always talk like explicitly about negative numbers when we mean numbers that are less than 0. And so if you look at this first one, it says you deliver flowers to an office building. You enter at ground level and go down 2 floors to make the first delivery. Then you go up 7 floors to make the second delivery. I might draw a picture to help me figure this out, but letter A says write an integer that represents each position. So you enter at ground level. And so if you kind of imagine, here's a building. Here is the ground floor. I'm going to call it G for ground. Since I'm neither up in the air, like going up floors, and I'm not in the basement, which would be negative floors technically, you are neither positive nor negative. So the ground floor is technically represented with the number 0. Now, if you go down 2 floors to deliver the flowers, it's like you're going into the basement. So we went down 2 spaces, so that would be represented by -2. And so in real life, you probably would not say that you're on like the -2nd floor. You would either call it the basement, like you don't call your basement -1, the -1st floor, or like if you're at a mall or something, in the elevator, it's sometimes labeled with a P for parking or L for lower level. But technically, if you're thinking about it mathematically, those are negative numbers that you're talking about. Okay, so then the next thing says you go up 7 floors to make the second delivery. However, if you are starting 2 floors below ground, down here, and you're going to go up 7 floors, you will not be at the 7th floor. You'll be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like the roof, but here's 0, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you're at -2, you'd go up 7 floors in the elevator. Now you are at floor number 5. And then the last question says write an integer that represents how you return to ground level. So if you are on the 5th floor of the building, you need to get back down to the ground floor, which is 0. You need to go down, which is -5 floors. Okay, you guys try the try-it questions. Okay, number 9 says the world record for scuba diving is 332 meters below sea level. Write an integer that represents a new record. Explain your thinking. So there are actually multiple answers for this. I am just kind of randomly choosing a number, and I said when I answered this that a new record could be -340. So if you kind of think about the example above this, about the flower delivery, and think about as you go farther below 0, the number looks kind of like it's getting bigger. And so on this one, the deeper you go, the bigger the number looks. It's actually smaller, which is what we're going to talk about in a different lesson. But negative 340, if you're going to explain that 340, talking about meters below sea level is deeper than 332 meters. You could have chosen 333, 334. There's not just one answer to this. And then number 9 says, an ion is an atom that has a positive or negative electric charge. When an ion has more protons than electrons, it has a positive charge. When an ion has fewer protons than electrons, it has a negative charge. Explain what it means for an atom to have an electric charge of 0. Okay, so if, to answer this, you should have said that if the atom or the ion has the same number of protons and electrons, it would have a charge of 0 because 0 is neutral. So if you think about protons being positive and electrons being negative, if you have the same amount, they all cancel each other out, which gives it a kind of like a 0 or a neutral charge. Okay, so that is lesson 8.1, the introduction to integers. Tomorrow we are going to be talking about comparing integers. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Thank you for watching.